Hello and happy Sunday to you. It's Sarah from Funky Fossil here, back with another weekly dose of crafting fun and a bit of play. And as you can see from the table in front of me, I've been having quite a play this week. I don't know if you follow me on kind of Facebook or our newsletter, you'll know that I've been really loving creating kind of collage papers in lots of kind of shades of blue, from kind of gone deliberately from kind of dark through to lighter shades, so that we can have a good range of values to do some collaging with. I've created them on the things like the kind of the jelly plate, using bubble wrap, using stencils, just painted papers. I've got some of the wet strength tissue paper, which is obviously great for painting and collaging with. Made marks on most of them. So we've got this kind of fantastic selection of papers to work with. Now, what my plan is today is to do a little bit, well, to do a collage on some kind of A4 paper that I can then cut down and put into a little concertina book. And this was something that came to me last week when we were decorating our fabulous kind of index card box, and I thought it would be great to have little journals displayed in there. So I decided to make a little bit of a concertina book and fill it with some collage. I've kept it fairly small here, but I do have another one made so I can extend it and add on. But in terms of length of video, I thought the main focus for today would work best to do the collage and cut it down into some small panels, and then I can carry on doing some more of that off camera and extending the journal. However, what I thought would be really nice would be to give you access to some of these journal papers. So there is a link in the description box below where you can download. I think I've done about 12 of the papers that we have in front of me. I've made them into kind of A4 sheets of paper, digital paper, that you can print off and be doing your own collage with. So if you don't have your own collage papers, or you want to work with some of the same designs as I'm using today, then you can access that set of papers for free and start creating and playing alongside me. I probably will do another video at some point about making kind of collage papers, because there's so many ways you can do it and it's such a fun thing to do. It is quite addictive. I mean, I've got a display here in front of me, but I also have a whole heap more off to one side as well. I've got way more paper than I'm actually going to need, so I suspect I'll be doing quite a few pieces of collage, and I've got a few ideas and projects in my mind that we can use some of these papers for, so I'm not expecting to use them all today. So that's that would be quite a challenge, I think, to get all of these into a collage today. So really simple, really easy, I hope, process. I don't really know how it's going to turn out. I don't quite know what it will look like in the end, but I think I've got a good range of papers to be working with here. And of course, my intention is to do this collage on a piece of A4 and then be able to cut it down into smaller panels, and then of course we can still work on top of those panels as well, so we can add stenciling or marks or splatters if we feel that the panels as they're cut down need a little bit of extra interest. So don't feel that you are constrained by the collage you end up cutting out of your kind of masterboard. You can still carry on working on that as well. Just in terms of dimensions, obviously you can make your concertina book any size you want, but I know a lot of you did purchase the MDF kit for the index card box, which obviously comes with 15 of the MDF artist trading cards, and comes with 4 of these cute stencils, so we may well use some of these to decorate our collage once we put it together. And so I've done the dimensions of this little mini concertina, so it will fit nicely in the one of the compartments of the box. So I think I've cut this to about 9.5 centimetres square. So it's really small. It's not a daunting size to be working with, but equally I didn't want to be creating individual collages to fit in here. I thought I'll do a larger collage and cut it down, so I'm not overthinking small pieces on each of these pages. So this is 9.5 square, and I'll probably end up cutting my final panels down to about 8 centimetres square, in order that they're kind of fit and framed nicely on those individual kind of segments of the book. So that's pretty much everything we need today. As I say, you can access some of these papers or make your own. Enjoy the process of painting and splashing and stenciling to create your own set of papers. To put the papers down onto the masterboard, and when I say masterboard, I'm just talking about kind of A4 cardstock. So I might do a couple of sheets, given I've got so many papers, and also it means I'll have more choice then about the panels that I want to cut for my book. So A4 cardstock is all I'm going to use to cut and collage onto. And then obviously we need a glue to be doing our collage with, and I've got the kind of matte medium from Liquitex and the matte gel. Obviously the medium's much more fluid and the gel's got a bit more body to it. So I was just thinking that in terms of some of these papers, which you can see have got beautiful texture to them, and have been all scrunched up, where they've got a bit more texture, or some of the heavier weight papers in my selection, the medium might be more helpful, or just give a bit more security for those papers than for the wet strand tissue paper. Honestly, I don't think it's going to make a huge amount of difference. So whatever glue you normally do your collaging with, I'm sure that will work. But these are the ones that I've got on my desk today. So my plan, such as it is going to be to tear some of these papers down, and not work in a grid format necessarily, but kind of do a kind of patchwork of papers onto this cardstock, gluing down, and then we'll see where we end up. So I'm going to do a bit of tearing off camera. I'm just going to probably going to just use a ruler to tear, just so that it's not that I get particularly straight lines, but slightly straighter segments. So I'm going to do some tearing. So we've got lots of bits of collage material to get us started, and then I'll put the camera back on, and probably when we're putting the collage together I'll probably speed that up a little bit, because you're not going to want to sit through me gluing down every piece, but we'll maybe have a bit of a chat as we kind of come up with a bit of a composition, and then we can speed through the actual sticking down bit. So let me do some tearing up, and then I'll be back in a very quick minute. So I've taken a selection of the papers, not all of them, and started tearing them up into smaller segments, as you can see here. Just used a ruler, as I say, and tore the papers into kind of loosely rectangle strips, etc. What I think I'm going to do is get a first layer down, kind of patchwork the papers together, and then have a look at it and see whether I want to add any further layers to it, or whether I want to start kind of doing a bit of mark making or add some gold splatters, whatever it might be. I'm just kind of inspired because some of these papers have got little bits of gold already on them, so that might be a nice way to go. Now I'm trying to be mindful as well of, so this is my A4 sheet here, and you can see I've started to kind of look at the layout for some of the papers. I'm also mindful that the size of my kind of papers or panels is going to be only kind of 8 by 8, so you don't necessarily want anything that's like way too big, because then that will pretty much dominate or take up a lot of a panel. So whilst I don't want my pieces to be teeny tiny, I'm just trying to bear in mind the kind of pages they'll end up being cut down into. I can't tell you how much fun I've been having with papers. this week, and I definitely will do a video in terms of just different ways that I like to make collage papers. It totally is so many different variations of doing it, and it could just be mop-up papers, it could be your pattern papers, the stash that we all have of those gorgeous pattern papers that we buy. So you could be totally doing this kind of project with those as well. So don't feel like you always have to start making your papers from scratch. I'm hoping that if I keep talking to you while I'm doing this, I won't overthink. Because otherwise it'll take me way too long to put this together. Oh no, I've got pieces up there, haven't I? I'll probably put a piece up here then. Just again, trying to give myself some options in terms of repeating patterns appearing on different pages. So that might be nice if I put that down there. So this is a gel print on some tissue paper. Some of these papers tear more nicely than others, or are more cooperative than others, should I say. So if we put that strip there and there, then we could probably put another strip of something along here. Just remembering as well, trying to consider your lights and darks so you get a good balance. So obviously I've got this kind of negative paper, well not negative, but they're both gel prints, but the dark blue, and then the same effect but in the white. So you've got the pattern kind of repeating, but you've got that contrasting colourway as well. This was just a mop-up paper, but I've got some of those sponge circles in white paint, so that's going to pick up on my bubble wrap and my painted circles. So I don't know if that should go there though. What else have we got? Honestly, I have so many papers. I have tried to edit myself down a little bit. Now this would look nice, but it's the same blue. Oh, this is nice with the handwriting on it, or the asemic writing. I'll put that up there because again, it's kind of a mid-tone blue. And I did a lot of these at the same time, which of course has helped in terms of having the papers consistent in terms of kind of both the mark making and also the colour. But you could do a really fabulous technicolor one. I mean, I'm just going for the kind of more monochromatic blues and whites today, but I am sure I will do this process with a kind of much more varied colour palette as well, and that would look cool. So in that corner, balancing here. We still need the thin strip, but I'm leaving that for the moment. This is just tissue paper. I think I coloured it with acrylic inks, and then I used just a comb that I bought from the supermarket with white acrylic paint to make those marks. So lots of great ways. Oh, should I put that? I feel I've got quite a few of these mid blues here. Can you see? Actually, I'm looking at it in the camera there, and it actually looks okay. That is one of the advantages, and I always say this, and you'll have heard other people say it, I'm sure. It's always worth, if you're ever unsure of your composition, either step back and look at it from a different angle, or take a photograph of it, because there's just something about that different perspective that can get you unstuck if you're feeling a little bit not sure, if you're not quite feeling sure about whether your composition is missing something. This is just mop-up paper, as I say, but I like the fact it's very pale, but it's just got a little touch of that dark blue. So, patchwork. I quite like working from the opposite edges and in, because it means I can kind of be conscious about repeating patterns. Now, it's not going to matter too much on this occasion because we are going to cut this up. If I was doing it as a single piece, then I might that might well have more bearing on the overall look of the finished design. But of course, this time out we are going to cut it back up. So let's put, I love this gel print. This is a stencil that actually I must add to the shop, because I think it's a really cool abstract design. It works beautifully on a gel plate. If I cut that down. And again, having your patterns in different orientations can be helpful as well, to give some visual interest. So that's there. I do like these circles. What did I do with them? Could I do with a little touch? Maybe just a little piece up there would be nice. But I'll do that later once I've got the main patchwork down. So I'm just trying to think aloud to hopefully help. I keep wanting to put this piece in. This is a piece of kind of dictionary paper, but it's got the word and definition of collage in it. So it kind of makes me happy that that word's on there. If I put it there, it contrasts with. Maybe I'll put it up here. So it's the stripes, but in a different direction. I do think that's going to need something dark to break those up. What else? I love this gel print, which is again another stencil I must add to the shop. It's a large stencil, it's about A4. I don't know. It's on tissue paper and it's being treated, so it's quite, I might keep that to one side. Oh, this might be nice though. It catches those blues, doesn't it? But in a slightly different, and it's got the texture of the crinkle as well, which we haven't got any of just yet. So we've now got a hole that we need to fill. Do we fill it with some more of this wonderful speckled paper? Then it'll be a lot of dark blue in the middle, wouldn't it? But of course we're cutting it down. Maybe if I put it up there a little bit. We've got another space here. What might work? No, I don't want another stripe. And of course, as you well know, many hours can be spent happily sifting through our papers and trying to find things that we like. Oh, I had some book paper that I painted on. Where's that gone? Or do I use some more of this fabulous ceramic writing? This is one of the papers in the download pack. That is the link is below in the description box. So I do hope you enjoy those or find them useful, even if they're just like inspiration for you in terms of doing something similar of your own. This was the book paper. That was kind of it's a bit of everything on there, some mop-ups, some acrylic ink, so that might be nice because that will give a bit of background interest. So let's just tear that down to go in the centre here. I've got an idea for all these even smaller scraps that I'm producing. If that goes under there, ish. I like that. Yeah. Right. I'm going to take a photograph of this before I dismantle it and try and re-piece it together, sticking everything down. But yeah, I think that looks okay, doesn't it? And partly, well not partly, but a lot of it is because we've got repeating shapes, the same colour palette, different shades of the same blues. I've mixed paints to kind of make sure I've got variations from Prussian blue right the way through to this kind of very, very pale blue here. We've got our circles in different formats, the paint lids, the hand painted, the bubble wrap. So I think if I was having it as a single piece, obviously I'd need to do more in terms of pulling it together. But actually as a masterboard, once that's glued down, it will be interesting to see whether we feel there's more that needs to go on here before we cut it down. So anyway, let me take a photo, and when I come back I will just do some gluing, but we'll speed it up so you don't have to hear me chattering away while I'm putting down the matte medium and getting all the papers in place. So I shall be back in a sec. So that's my kind of initial pieces all stuck down. I'm going to have to wait now for the matte medium to dry completely, and it will dry as it suggests. It will dry matte, and it will also give a really lovely tooth to the surface. So if you were then wanting to go on and do further work on top, it kind of seals in the papers. You probably saw as I was sticking things down, I was putting the medium down on the base, and then putting it over the paper as I stuck it down. It helps kind of keep the wrinkles out of it to some extent, but also it does give you that seal for further work. You probably saw as well that I kind of lost track of what was happening over on this side of the layout. I definitely ended up with some mystery spaces that I can't remember why there were spaces there, so I just had to add some other smaller elements in, but I think that works quite nicely. And I've got lots of little bits left over here, I mean plus all my papers of course, so I can make a decision about whether, you know, we add in for example further smaller elements, smaller pieces to break up those larger panels. Probably wouldn't put that there, but you know, in terms of, again, the fact we're going to cut these down into these smaller squares, do we need to break up some of these panels a little bit? So I'm going to let this dry, and then we'll come back and have a think about whether it's about a case of adding more paper or adding some marks and stenciling before we cut down for our final pages. So I shall leave that drying, and I hope you watched me trying to put that jigsaw puzzle together. I think I like it though. I do like the blues. I think it gives it a nice, makes it nicely cohesive. So I'm off to make a cup of tea while that dries, and I shall be back again very soon. So the masterboard is pretty much dry now. While I was off camera, I added a few little additional scraps of pattern paper, mainly to break up larger blocks, because of course with this being cut down into 8x8 centimetre panels, I didn't want there to be any kind of very large spaces. So I thought actually just having a few elements that kind of repeat would work. So I just added those in, and I'm hoping it's all dry. It's dry enough, I think. So I thought the next thing that would be cool to do would be to add back in some gold, because a few of the papers have got some gold splatters, but that's kind of been lost a little bit now. And I thought let's use the mini stencils that are in the Sunday Maker bundle from last week, where we were doing the MDF box, because they're in a nice size. Of course, remember again, we're cutting these down to be quite small, so it'd be quite nice to have some elements of smaller pattern now that we've created our base. And I'm thinking of kind of adding, I thought the rectangles might work nicely because they're going to echo some of these stripe elements. And I'm going to add them in, I'm going to add the pattern in a couple of places, like this one and here, maybe down here, where there are slightly larger areas that kind of don't have a huge amount going on, or the larger areas, and if you cut that down, there probably won't be a lot of variety on that panel. I hope I'm making sense. And what I thought I'd do in terms of making this gold is also make it a bit dimensional as well. So I'm going to use one of my kind of favourite techniques with stencils, where we're going to go over the stencil with some heavy body gel, which dries clear but obviously raised dimensional. And while that gel is still wet, we're going to sprinkle some embossing powder, some gold embossing powder over it. Once that gel is set with the embossing powder already kind of encapsulated in it, then we will heat it to melt the powder, so it will give you a raised look and gold look as well, which I think is really cool. If you have a gold texture paste, that's great too. This is just a way that I like to add elements of kind of texture and dimension with my stencils, and embossing powders obviously something I have a lot of in my stash. So the key, of course, is that I'm hoping my matte medium, the glue I use to stick all this down, is dry enough, because what we don't want is the embossing powder sticking in areas where it's not welcome. Although of course that will be cool too, because it will add some kind of gold splatters around the paper. So I'm not going to stress about it too much. So So I like this Pentart Heavy Body Gel. This is a matte one, so when it dries clear, it dries matte. It doesn't matter for this technique because of course you're going to be adding embossing powder into it. There is a gloss one and a matte one, but any clear kind of dimensional paste that you have will do the job. So I'm not going to take a lot out on my palette knife here because it's a relatively small stencil and I'm not wanting to add too much to the masterboard. So I'm going to add some here over this lighter blue section. So we're not doing the whole of the panel, we do a whole of the stencil, we're just going to add touches of it. So let's add a little bit at the top here. Where should we add it? This area here. Where else did I set? Oh, I think it'd be nice here because it might look like it's continuing these lines from the piece below. And of course at the moment I've still very consciously decided not to cut my masterboard down, so I'm not kind of working on individual panels, I'm working on the thing as a whole, so I don't know what will be visible where once we cut this up. And should we add a little bit down here as well? What about here? Of course, the challenge of this is it's very addictive. You'll find you're adding it over everything. The other thing I like about this gel medium, this heavy body gel from Pentart, is it does have a good consistency. So even when you're working over a surface it's a little bit uneven, I don't get too much bleed under the stencil. Just where else? Let's put some on that join there. I want some at the top. I feel like this area here is quite dominant, but of course again we're going to cut it up. I have to keep reminding myself. But if I add a bit just where some of these papers intersect, that'll be the last touch we add. It's going to be really interesting, isn't it? What we see where when we cut this up. And this is one of the reasons I like to work in masterboards, because it stops you overthinking the composition too early. Right, so we've got lots of nice areas of stenciling there. Let us add our embossing powder. You're not racing time here. Obviously the gel stays wet for a reasonably long period of time, so it's not like when you're putting ink down and you're wanting to ensure you get your powder on before the ink dries. So you can work over a larger piece like this, add your medium and then add the powder at the very end, because it won't have set in the time from you starting to put that medium down. So a piece of card to capture the powder. And the gold I think will give us a nice contrast to all the blues we've got on this collage. Let's just refill our pot. Again, right. There we go. There we go. You can see where that gold's been added. Now, because we're going to set this to one side and wait for the gel to dry, what you'll find before you melt the powder is that in areas like this, for example, unless there's a lot of medium there that's sticking to the glue, where they're static, sticking to the powder, where they're static, or just other bits where it's kind of settled and you don't want it, they will probably knock off before you need to heat set it. So don't worry about it now. Let it all dry, and then you can dust off any excess powder before you heat set. I recommend heating it once the medium is dry, or at least drier. If it's still very wet at the point you apply the heat, you're typically going to get some bubbling of the medium, which will sometimes lose the definition of the pattern. So if you want to keep your design fairly crisp, wait till your gel medium has dried a little bit more before applying heat. So another bit of drying time, and then I'll be back and we'll melt our embossing powder and see what effect it gives us. So I should be back in another minute. So I've left the gel medium to dry. I probably left it quite a while now because I went off and did other things, but probably about 20 minutes, half an hour tops will be enough for you to be able to apply heat to the embossing powder. So let's do that now and see the effect that we get. I'm putting the gun on a lower speed just so that I can be careful the extent to which I activate the gel medium. And if you see it starting to bubble, just move on, and you can always come back to it to help the powder to melt. You can see it turning. And the powder won't shed once it's all dry because it's being captured by that gel medium, so it's quite securely on the collage. Last bit. And there we go. Oh, we'll just get this last bit here. That looks really cool. Can you see the shine now where the powder's melted? So it's got dimension and shine. So the last thing I'm going to do on camera is just got a gel medium on my hand, is add a little bit of gold splatter, leave that to dry, and then what I'll do once that is dry is cut these down into the smaller panels. And hopefully we should be able to see whether we're happy with how that's all come together. So I've got a bit of gold edges. I think this is a high flow paint, but gold ink, anything you use for creating your splatters will be fine. I'm just going to dip my paintbrush in. And so all these kind of gold elements will tie it together. They just lift that blue and white a little bit. It's a generous splatter. I feel I've got plenty on myself as well. Right, so we can leave our masterboard now to finely dry. Say I will cut this up into 8cm squares off camera. While I was waiting for this to dry, I also made up a second board, so I'll be doing exactly the same steps to that. And once we've got our 8cm panels, we can add them to our little concertina book and see if we need to do anything else. So I shall leave this drying, and I'll probably leave it overnight and be back tomorrow. So I have cut down the A4 sheet into 6 8cm by 8cm squares, and I just kind of eyeballed areas of the kind of the masterboard that I thought were interesting. Wanted to try and pick up bits of that gold embossing where I could make sure it was still on the panel. And I really love them. I think they're looking great. And I've got another masterboard that I did while I was waiting for things to dry. So I've got one here which I haven't yet cut down, and I've used the small crosses stencil from the Sunday Maker bundle on this one. So I'll be able to cut this down, and I'll end up with 12 pieces of a little collage artwork. Now I'm looking at these, and I'm going to leave the video here and come back with a part 2 next week, where we can decorate our collage book, make some covers for the front and back, but also I'm thinking maybe slightly add some slight finishing touches to these before we put them in the book. There are a couple, for example, this one here, it's got quite a lot of white space, so even just the offcuts from the masterboard, I could go back in and add other little touches of collage, or I could do a bit of stamping. I'm probably going to come in with my Posca pen either in the white or the gold and add some further details. This one, I think, or maybe this one for example, maybe this one. I might want to add a little bit more white into this because it's got quite a lot of the dark tones in there. So just tiny little touches, but I think there's some further bits and pieces we can do to these to just enhance them even further. And then we can mat them onto some dark blue cardstock, put them in our collage book, and we can make our covers and get that whole concertina kind of completed. So rather than making this video way too long, I'm going to leave them here for now, but I really do think that's effective. And you can see how simple it was. You've got a stack of collage papers. I've got loads and loads of offcuts here that I'm going to be able to use on other projects. So much fun to put the papers down, not needing to overthink it, and then cut them into smaller sections that you can use for your pages. You could of course be doing even more with them. You could be kind of gessoing over them and doing further abstract kind of artwork over them, but I think the blue and gold and white combo is really fresh, and I'm happy with where we've got them to today. So thank you for bearing with me today. If you want to finish your kind of concertina book, then you've got your access to your digital papers, so you can download those, get collaging this week, and then next week we can be finishing our project together. Please like and subscribe to the channel if you've enjoyed today and you want to see more content like this. I shall be back next Sunday and we will finish off this collage concertina, and hopefully it's got you inspired to do something messy, fun and creative this Sunday. So thanks again for watching, and I shall see you very soon. Thank you.